Hello, and welcome back to the channel, here for some OOTP 27. That is right, I did indeed get the game this year. The series is a go, and as you can see, based on the thumbnail, the title, and what you're seeing in front of your face right now, we are playing a long-term sim with the Washington Nationals. This time we're playing as Doug Marsh, as I continue to be the 30-year-old Gen X man. Doug Marsh, the lead man of the indie rock band Built to Spill. If you know, you know. If you don't, listen to the music, because it's really good stuff. And now, just right off the top, we are going to dive into the lag issue with OOTP. This is something that's been in the game for over a decade now, ever since I've had OOTP games. I believe my first OOTP game was OOTP 15, if I'm not mistaken, and they've all had some sort of memory leak issue. And like I've mentioned before in the past, if you've seen my other videos, there used to be a fix where, as you would play, the game would just get super laggy and not responsive, which is obviously a huge problem in a game that is entirely text-based. So it would result in you having to basically completely restart the game every few hours of playing, and essentially as the years have gone on, the amount of time that it takes for you to play and reach that point of unresponsiveness is shorter and shorter. And there used to be a fix in the game where you would just go hit File, Settings, and then just literally confirm anything and just hit OK, and boom, instantly it would return back to just snappiness like you just opened the game. For whatever reason, in OOTP 26, that is no longer a work. That no longer works. That's no longer a fix for their memory leak. They refuse to fix. And it was so unbearable last year that it ended up cutting our series short, and I went back to OOTP 25 for a bit. But this year, we're going to power through. We're going to go as long as we can here with this 2026 version, or OOTP 27, 2026 is where we're starting, obviously, with the Washington Nationals. I have heard from a subscriber that you are able to just simply go back to the OOTP start screen, and that kind of resets it. So it's not like a full reset, but it's still it's like a half reset. So I haven't tried that because this game has had some issues at launch that I just wasn't really interested in playing through. I was just waiting for them to fix. So basically what you're seeing here is my essentially first actual go through here with OOTP, so I haven't really done any sims. The only thing I've done is when I first bought the game, I simmed through one season with the Tampa Bay Rays, just kind of like willy-nilly going through it, not really thinking about too much, just kind of, getting my settings in there, going through all my views and whatnot. But that was weeks ago, whenever the game first dropped, so they've made changes since then. And I'm not exactly in the groove of OOTP, so it should be interesting here at the start of the series, because we gotta get back in the groove. And now, before we actually dive into what this Washington Nationals team looks like and go over just everything about the system, I do want to actually cover all the game settings and league settings changes that I've made, just so people are aware of what I have done. If you are not interested in any of this behind-the-scenes or under-the-hood sort of settings, there will be a timestamp probably on the screen and definitely in the description that you can click on, and it'll just take you to when I just start going over the actual team. But for the rest of you, we're just going to run through these settings, and I'm just going to show you what I changed here. Right off the bat, overall rating and potential rating, values of 20 to 80, increments of 5. That's just what I've always ran with, because that's just what makes sense in my mind. I don't like the star system. I think last couple of years we ran with yes for show ratings over max, so it would, if you had a guy with like a 90 grade fastball, it would show it, but I kind of want to go back to just not showing it this year, so it kind of just adds a bit more to the fog of war, and if a guy is like beyond 80, you just don't really know. You'll have to just base it on if he performs above an 80. And then I also, as far as like saving stuff, I keep all reports for my scouting, only one for OSA. As long as the autosave goes, it's once a week. We keep the box scores from the human leagues. Human leagues. And then, we want human teams, or human organizations. What is it exactly? I think it's just human teams. We want human teams, because human leagues would just be any league that we're managing in. So I think we want human teams, so we have all our minor league teams as well. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'll double check this before I actually start simming games, but the rest of this stuff I do not give a shit about, like game recaps, WPA, game logs. I don't look at any of this stuff. All it does is bog down the save. And this is another reason why the memory leak issue pisses me off even more, because if you leave a comment about it in the forums, all you're going to do is get some guy who made his OOTP forum account in 2002 going, oh, well, have you tried turning off so-and-so? And it's, just basic stuff that I turned off 10 years ago and have turned off in every save since. And also, even that stuff shouldn't make the game lag as much as it does on a computer like this. So it just makes no sense. It pisses me off. There's been a bunch of posts about lagginess in this year's game in the forums. Basically, every other day I look in the forums and there's a post about it. And they either just get completely ignored, or like I said, some guy who made his forum account in 2002 goes, well, have you tried turning off game recaps? Yeah, thanks. Good stuff, guy. But moving on from that, I also turn off owner goals because I'm not interested in like appeasing an owner and like getting fired because I acquired the 16th best third baseman and he wanted a top 15 third baseman. So it's not something I deal with. So we just turn that off. And then I also like to always be in control of lineups and hiring. So if you have like a manager who, wants to mess with your lineups or whatever, this should override it. I have had times in the past where this is checked, and even though it's checked, your manager is still overriding your lineups. So, who knows if that'll work this year. Moving on to players and teams section. The only thing I changed here, I believe, is the show player personalities on the profile page. I have not touched any of the aging speed or development speed yet. I might, because I usually end up editing some of this. Or one thing I'll probably do right off the bat is just make it so it's like I think it's 0.9 is what my guy OT Patty does for his aging, and I believe that's what I've done for the past few years as well, because just like him, I like my players to stick around a bit longer. And what did I just do? I disabled player development. My God, what an idiot. I want player development on, Jesus Christ. So yeah, I think we're going to keep it at that. I'm going to look into that more before we actually start simming games here, but as far as it is right now, this is what it's going to stay at. But I might edit it a bit more, and if I do, I will let you know. I'm also disabling... No, we don't want that. We want that on. That must have auto-disabled when I accidentally disabled this. We want the development lab on. When we're going to 16 slots this year, the default is 8. I think I played 10 last year, and I just think that, it's not like if you have 16, the AI teams still only have 8, so it's not like you're like jipping it or playing on an unfair level with the AI. They also get 16, you get 16, and, Major League Baseball teams are tweaking and working on stuff with individual players literally all year long with hundreds of players at a time, so it just seems fine to me that we can do 16 only during the off-season. So I'm going to keep it that nice even number, 16. And then I'm also going to disable player development focus is what I wanted to mention. That is where you can go to a player, and if you go to the... Or I guess it's not even going to be here because I disabled it, duh. But there is like a development page you could go to where you can like decide like, oh, I want Brady House to focus more on his contact and completely ignore his eye. And I just don't like that. I just like to keep it 50-50 down the middle and just have the original development settings in this game because I just think it's kind of iffy and not really that great with how the AI manages it anyways, so we just turn it off now. That's what we're rolling with here. And then as far as keeping stats, I keep the splits for everybody and then the fielding stats for everybody because I like to see the splits, and I like to see the fielding stats for the minor leagues as well, so I can know if a guy is actually good at his position or not, and then I only keep major leagues for the postseason. I do have face gen on, like if I go to here, Face Gen, it is enabled. It says obviously these options will not take effect until you quit and restart the game. I've done this twice because it wasn't working the first 2 times I did it, or the first time I did it, so I did it again, and then it's still not working. So I don't know why this isn't working. I usually play with Face Gen, but for now we're playing with no Face Gen because it's not working. Who knows why? The AI settings page is a bit different this year because they actually do have difficulty settings. Right now, we are going to start on the default setting, which is just base OTP, what we've been playing on for the past however many years I've been playing this game. As far as I know, the All-Star and Hall of Fame ones, that basically just make it so, like, players want to come to your team less, coaches want to come to your team less, your coaches are going to get poached more often. And then also, I believe it also skews it to where the AI teams get a bit more TCR bumps in their favor, so it just becomes a harder experience. We're going to keep it on majors just because this is my first run through, and I don't really know how balanced this stuff is. Any sort of thing like this where it's a new game, you never know what it's going to be like. So, you might check on All-Star and all of a sudden every team's got an 80 overall or something. And I don't know. I don't know how balanced it is, so we're not going to mess with it quite yet. But if at some point I feel like we need to up the difficulty, we might go ahead and here and do that, because you can do it after you actually start the save. And then I've heard the trading is much harder this year, so we're just going to keep the trading on this what it is right now. We can always adjust this as it goes on, but for now, it's just going to be like this. I don't use reputation system because it's kind of gimmicky and finicky as well, and then I don't use hard mode. I did 1 year, didn't really like it, but now we're just not using hard mode. And then I also don't like the trade deadline. It's kind of just like a weird, it reminds me of something they would add to MLB The Show as their number one feature, and it just kind of doesn't really do anything, and it's kind of annoying. It just kind of bogs down the experience, so I just don't play with it. I also have adjusted these player evaluation settings to be 45, 30, 20, and 5. I don't remember exactly what the default is. I think it's 60 something and something. And then as far as the league settings go under rules, I do not believe I change anything here. One thing I do check on is the trading of injured players 7 days or more. I don't abuse that, but I want the AI teams to be able to trade injured players because you can in real life. But obviously, I'm not going to be going and trading for a guy who's, out for the whole season and abusing the AI. I have, limits on myself. I'm able to keep myself in check with trades and stuff like that. And then I used to edit the draft date to be June 1st because I liked having my guys get in and actually have a bit more time on our system. But now I just think that it kind of aligns with how I set up these videos, and I think it really it sets it up to where it's a perfect first half and second half for the episodes of how I align this series and how I structure this series. Otherwise, if the draft is on June 1st, the first half episodes is really, you're only getting 2 months of stats, so there's not really too much to go over. It can kind of be, it feels like the first half is kind of like a small episode, and the second half is this big episode, whereas now it's kind of more even between first and second half. I've also gone in and edited the name of this is Platinum Stick. I changed it to Silver Slugger, and then instead of Great Glove, it's the Gold Glove in real life. I've also turned off rainouts, because in OOTP Patty, his series last year, he mentioned that he missed out on a game because they got rained out or something, and he got screwed out of a playoff spot because of it. And I was like, I don't want that to happen, so I'm just turning it off. And also, it just doesn't make any sense to have rainouts anyways. It's not like I'm trying to get into the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day of managing a baseball team. I don't give a shit if there's rain, so we don't need there to be double headers or whatever. The games are going to be played out as it is. There's no rainouts. This is a universe where we aren't, going through the day-by-day of it, so we don't need rainouts. I also thought about checking on break ties of tiebreaker games. I'm going to leave that off to start, but I do like that, so we might be bringing that back in the future, maybe when the league gets realigned or something in a few seasons down the line. But for now, we're going to keep this checked off. And then on the Players tab, one thing I used to do in the default player origin, I believe it was, or with the international origin, was I would add Curacao and the Bahamas to it, because that wasn't a part of the original thing, but now it is. So I don't have to go in there and check that. We're going to keep that how it is. But I also dropped the international discoveries. This is default on more. I dropped it down to default. I don't know why it's called default, considering the default is now more. So, but we're dropping it back down to 16. And then the generate international established free agents, I dropped this down to few. And we also edit the origin because I no longer play with the KBO enabled, and then the NPB is no longer in the game. So I just have this to be only Japan, South Korea, and Cuba, as those are really the only 3 nationalities you see coming over as established free agents anyways. And these days, it's definitely much more Japan-focused, with a little bit of Korea, and then Cuba as players, as established players go coming over, kind of is just entirely dried up. You can look at their WBC team this year as an example of that. Obviously a ton of reasons for that, but just to, have our own version of the NPB and KBO and Cuba, those are the 3 that we have checked here. I believe Taiwan and Mexico are also checked by default, but I unchecked those because it's really only these 3 that you see, and then only 5 of them are going to be coming over per year because that's the fewest you can go, and I feel like that's a good number. And then I also turn off international or independent leagues because we have the independent leagues actually on in this. That is one thing that I do play with on. And then, these guys tend to be like American guys that just like pop up like in free agency. You'll be like, oh, there's a guy with a 70 overall who just is fake and just randomly appeared as a 27-year-old in free agency. So I'm not really into that. So we just turn that off entirely. Oh, and then also I like to make this be more for the generate international amateur free agents. Just, have as many as maybe we could do a lot. We'll do more. Just having more options to go out there and sign. And then for stats and AI here, one thing I do, or 2 things I change is hook for starting pitcher. Default is -2. I drop this down to even be more so because guys just don't go deep into games anymore. And I want that to be, a little bit more shown in this game. So we drop it down to -3. And then also, stealing bases is just default normal. I feel like this should be ticked up by default by just how that game should be, because obviously teams are stealing a ton nowadays. So I don't want to move it up to very often, but I am going to move it up to often. And then those are the only changes we make here. And I believe that is all we have to go over. All right, so we've gone through and looked at all the league settings, the behind-the-scenes stuff, the under-the-hood settings. Now it's time to actually dive into our team here. And the first thing we're going to do is take a look at our staff here, as we have this new look, I almost said Mariners, new look Nationals staff here, that just a bunch of people who were born in years around me. Simon Matthews here, 1995. This guy's a few months older than me. Makes you feel real good. So they've got their full millennial staff here, and they've also got no longer Taboni. Now it's Doug Marsh as the GM. We're taking Taboni's spot. That's one of the reasons why I felt like this Nationals team was interested to take over, because one, they've just been really, really terrible in recent memory, which is why they've made the change to have an entirely different new coaching staff and front office, bringing in Taboni last year from the Red Sox. And then, they're starting to get a bit of buzz here with the way they're doing things in real life. So we're just kind of trying to emulate that and bring Jersey-born baseball here to Washington, D.C. We're going to keep most of this young staff here. Like, we're not going to fire any, Buter or anybody. As far as the pitching coach goes, Simon Matthews, he's good at pitching, average and everything there. Hitting coach, he's good at hitting, good at everything there. Corey Ray is a good first base coach, former Brewers draft pick, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was in the Brewers system at one point. Victor Estevez here, or I should say Corey Ray, really good at his job. Victor Estevez, though, quite not good. So I think we are going to fire Estevez. And then I was looking through the minor leagues here, and Delano DeShields looks like he could be a really good third base coach. So we're going to bring him up to be our third base coach and then just replace our AA manager here off the bat. And then check out our scout here, Desmond McGowan, possibly the worst scout I've ever seen on a base OOTP roster. I mean, just look at this. What? Why? I mean, come on. I know it's the Nationals, but they're turning things around here, and part of us turning things around is we're firing Desmond McGowan just right away. Get out of here. And then Estevez also, get out of here. And then our team trainer, he's got that legendary prevent arm injuries, but he's not Drew Jamieson. So he's getting out of here as well. We're going to fire him. And then those are the guys we're going to replace. So Delano DeShields here, we are going to appoint him as the third base coach in Washington. And then as far as our scouting goes, I used to prefer Favor Tools, but they changed how Favor Tools works last year, and I wasn't really a big fan of it, so I think we're going to favor ability this year. I don't know about highly favorability, because I don't really know if there's anybody out there who stands out to me as like a highly favorability guy that could be really good, but I am seeing Drew Toussaint here, who is excellent with the major leagues and then outstanding with everything else, so I believe we're going to go with him here, Drew Toussaint, as our scouting director. Did I call him Drew Jamieson? It's Rick Jamieson. We're hiring Rick Jamieson here, the OOTP legend. Drew Jamieson, is he still a D-back? I don't know. Used to be a D-back guy. But Rick Jamieson, the OOTP immediate trainer hire off the bat of every save, he is going to be our trainer. And then we've also gone ahead and offered this guy here to be our AA manager. And then if we ever have to promote him at some point to be like a hitting or pitching coach, we can do that because he's legendary at both of them. And then outstanding at handling development. So he is our AA manager here, assuming that he accepts the offer. Another thing we're going to do is, since we have a little bit of total money available here and it is the start of the season, we are going to adjust our player dev budget and scouting budget because we need that to be bumped up, because I like to have it bumped up. Usually I like to have the development around like 24 plus million, so we're going to just make it 25, an even 24, or not an even 25, but a good, solid $25 million development budget. That drops us out of $14.5 million for money. And then we're also going to make our scouting budget a bit higher because I like to bump that up as well. We're going to make that 17.5, and now we've got 8 million. We'll do an even 18. We'll do an even 18. So boom, we got 18 million. And then one thing I like to do is we like to drop major league and minor league scouting down to 10%, and then have most of our scouting into amateur international, because those are the guys in my mind that actually need more scouting, as opposed to the major league and minor league scouting being, you don't need as much of those guys being uncovered, because you can look at stats and, once they get to where they are, it's pretty much who they are at that point, and it's easier to evaluate those guys than it would be somebody in the MLB draft or in the IFAs, obviously, where you want most of your scouting going into. So that's why I do it this way, 10-10, 40-40. And then sometimes I'll go in here and add like a scouting priority for like a catcher that's really good at framing, or like an outfielder that's really good at range, or a shortstop that's a defensive wizard. But we're not going to do that right now, but I might go in here and add that at some point. And then just because they're recommending it, we are going to bump our draft budget up to even 10 million here. And then we got a couple million left over in the total money available. We can move things around, obviously, once the offseason comes around. But for now, that's what we're going to rock and roll with here. 25 million in player dev, 10 million in draft budget, and 18 million in the scouting budget. And now it is finally time to take a look at this Washington Nationals organization, mainly the Major League roster here, and maybe a couple prospects who are like immediately ready, or ready fairly soon, who could be contributors here for this 2026 campaign. First things first, taking a look at our injuries here. Josiah Gray out with an elbow injury. This is head scout, or this is, I guess, is BOSA. No, this is head scout, I guess, from the previous guy. Josiah Gray here has not been what people would have hoped. He not exactly somebody we're relying on with these ratings. And then DJ Hers, this is somebody who could be somebody really good for us. Possibly a reliever, possibly a starter. We'll have to see how he develops for us, but starting the year on the IL, recovering from Tommy John. Unfortunately, I believe he came over in the Cubs trade, didn't he? Yes, he came over in the Yeimer Candelario trade in 2023. And then Paxton Schultz starts the year on the IL with 3 weeks of elbow inflammation. 45, maybe he's somebody for us, who knows. Righty from Utah. And then Trevor Williams, another just fantastic human being, because we got a bunch of those in baseball, recovering from a partially torn UCL. He is out for 2 months, and, he's not really anything special either. That is one thing that is definitely obvious from just looking at the roster, is that basically all of our good players are hitters, and we don't really have too much going in the form of pitching. Cade Cavalli looks like he could be a decent player for us. We've got Foster Griffin, who just came over from, was it NPB or was it KBO where he was playing? I forget exactly where, but he was signed this offseason, coming over from overseas after leaving stateside professional ball and going over to, I forget once again. I forget if it was NPB or KBO. It was one of those things. And then we've also got Zach Littell, who was a free agent signing. He's been with Tampa Bay the past couple seasons and then was traded to Cincinnati last year as well. We've also got Brad Lord, who, I will be honest, it's not exactly like I watched a ton of Washington Nationals baseball in 2025. So don't know who this is. Don't really know anything about him, but we will learn these guys as we go. And then Miles Michaelis, obviously, I'm aware of Miles Michaelis, and he's just kind of a control fifth starter type guy. And then in the bullpen, not a lot going for us there. Right now it has the closer as Clayton Beeter. He could be good. Texas Tech, wreck 'em, baby. We love this guy already. Boom. Yeah, he's a Yankees prospect guy, yeah. He came over in the, yes, Brown Martinez, yes. He came over with Brown Martinez, yes. Now it's ringing a bell here. So we got Clayton Beeter in the back end of our bullpen, and then it's like a bunch of guys that really don't have any sort of future here that we're just going to be trying to get rid of as fast as humanly possible. We've got, it looks like the best of the bunch is PJ Pouillon, something like that, if it's really French. Lefty. He was a waiver claim in 2025 from Detroit's system, it looks like. And it looks like he actually had a decent 2025 stint in 24 2/3 innings with them. Almost 30 years old. Massachusetts guy, went to UConn. We loved that. And then basically everybody else was a 40. Granillo, extreme fly ball. Don't love that. Cole Henry, he's whatever. Jake Irvin, sure. Cionel Perez, former Baltimore Oriole, lefty, sure, maybe he's decent. Gus Varland, whatever, not really anything. And then Ken Waldichuk, former prospect for the Athletics, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, for the Athletics. And then wasn't he? Yes, he was a Yankees draft pick, came over in the J.P. Sears trade. Yes. This is all ringing a bell for me. So a lot of guys that I've heard of, kind of like failed prospect types, is just also guys that we really have no interest in. But a lot of these relievers, not anybody we're really looking at here. And then let's just see what we have in the minor leagues when it comes to pitching. So the AAA team, we've got Riley Cornelio, something like that, from TCU, 2022 draft pick. It doesn't say what number. You have to go here to see the number. 7th round pick in 2022 at a TCU. He's a 45-45. He could be an option for us. And keep in mind, these are the ratings before the scout looks at these guys. So these ratings could be drastically different once our scout actually looks at them, because as we saw, our scout was truly terrible. So who knows how accurate these are, but this is just a rough idea of these players. We've also got Luis Perales here, 22, almost 23 years old. Looks like he's one of the better prospects in the game right now. He came over in the Red Sox trade for Jake Bennett. Sure, whatever. Luis Perales, I believe he throws really hard. Yeah, he throws pretty hard. Power pitcher, good fastball, slider, splitter, cutter. Could be an interesting arm for us. And then we've also got no numbers really standing out to me here, but we do have Ogasawara here. Shinosuke Ogasawara, lefty, Japanese guy. Could be interesting. Who knows? Could be fun at least just to have him. Jake Eater. He's been somebody I've claimed before in previous saves. Looks like he's not exactly anything too special in this universe, though. But once again, who knows what these guys will look like when we actually get a real scout in here. And Mitchell Parker. Mitchell Parker I'm aware of. He had a decent 2024 with Washington, not a great 2025, and now is currently with the Rochester Red Wings in AAA. And then down to AA, we've got Jackson Kent, who is a lefty from Elk Grove. Classic Illinois town name. University of Arizona guy. He was a 4th-round pick in 2024, and he could be somebody who ends up in the big leagues for us here. We also got Eric Swan, Eric with a Q, Swan. Good fastball, looks like, not really any control. Could possibly be a reliever type with that control. And not really, is this Marquise Grissom Jr.? Wow. From Georgia Tech. Doesn't really look anything too special, but it's a name I recognize, obviously. And then when it comes to the lineups, the hitters here, we don't really look at the individual lineups, but catchers, Drew Milas, decent avoid K, really fast for a catcher, decent framing, 55 blocking, so he's a decent defensive catcher. And then we've also got Keibert Ruiz, who is on just a terrible, terrible contract through age 33 with the team option. You know, the numbers aren't that great, aren't that big, but, you know, if you're going to pay a guy this much, you at least want him to be useful. And the thing is, he has been really, really bad, as you can see here. Just has not been a productive Major League player since coming over from the LA Dodgers. And that's been a huge bummer for the Nationals. As far as some of the rest of the bats go, Luis Garcia looks like he's at first base for us, no longer really a second baseman. Actually looks like he could play like a decent corner outfield even. Maybe we try him there at some point. But first base right now. Second base is Nasim Nunez. Really good middle infielder, mainly a glove type. Looks like he could have a decent eye as well, but not going to hit for any power or gap power whatsoever. It's really just kind of put the ball in play, get on base, use your speed, and then glove first. We've also got Brady House, who's been a prospect in their system for a while. It feels like he's been around forever because he was a 2021 draft pick. He's 23. And he really hasn't quite established himself at the Major League level quite yet, even though he is, you know, pretty young as, you know, a baseball player goes. It just feels like he's been around forever because he was very young when he was drafted back in 2021. But he is our third baseman. Looks like he could be a really good power bat for us if he develops. Leader, we love that. We also have Jose Tena. Jose Tena, this is somebody who I know kind of popped off in MLB The Show last season, in the little bit of I played of that. But big BABIP, gap power, not really too much power or eye, but decent speed. Could be a decent like second, third baseman type for us. We might end up playing him at second, and Nunez will be like a bench player, honestly. And then have Brady House be our starting third baseman. I don't know. We'll have to see how things shake out. But then, you know, C.J. Abrams, shortstop, very good player. He's an established player. We're excited about him. Left field, James Wood, obviously, just an incredible talent. He's our best player. He's our best overall player, absolutely. Coming off a 4-win season. And then center field, looks like it's a combination of Joey Wiemer and Jacob Young. Both basically like glove first types. Looks like Wiemer has a little bit more bat. Like Wiemer's a bit more well-rounded of a bat, whereas Jacob Young's got a good contact bat, but no pop whatsoever. Really relies on just kind of putting the ball in play, using his speed, and then glove first as well. And then Joey Wiemer, a little bit better of a bat, but nothing really too special when it comes to his bat either. And then Dalen Lyle in right field. Interesting player, really good contact bat, good gap power, not really too much home run power or eye, but really good speed, decent defender in the corner. He could be a very interesting player. I didn't realize he put up a 2 WAR last season. He was actually quite good. He kind of came on my radar later in the season. I think the Red Sox had a series in DC at some point, and I was watching it, and I was like, who the hell's this guy? And Dalen Lyle, interesting player. Definitely somebody we are excited to have here. So our outfield in the corners looking good. Shortstop looking good. I like House and Tanya potentially. I'm always going to want to call him Tanya because I just see a name like that. I'm like, oh, he's Dominican. It should have a tilde over it, in my mind, but it doesn't, I don't believe. So I'm pretty sure it's Tana. I'll look it up at some point, but, you know, it's whatever. And then Luis Garcia, interesting bat, but, you know, defensively, not really cutting it in the infield. We'll have to try him maybe at some point in the outfield. We'll have to see how that goes. Maybe, Lyle and Wood, they can't really play center. Yeah, they definitely can't play center. I mean, even Wood's a guy who kind of might be better off at first base, DH type, than he would in left. So, you know, who knows? But we got some options here. And then as far as guys in the minors go, when it comes to the bats, we've got Ari Ford, the English-American, whatever you want to call him. I think it's like his mom is English, so he was able to play on the English WBC team. Incredibly good eye. Looks like he could be a good bat. His catching is actually, in this, kind of favored quite well. In real life, there's questions about whether he's going to stick at catcher. In this, looks like he's kind of our obvious solution for Keibert Ruiz not working out at the catcher position. So I would say that he might even end up on our big league team just to start the season. Maybe, a couple weeks into it. Who knows? But he will definitely be on the big league team at some point in 2026 for us, probably earlier than later. We've also got another young catcher here in Caleb Lomavita, a Hawaiian out of Cal. He looks like he's got some decent defensive ability. Can even play some corner outfield, possibly, with a 65 arm. And then the bat is okay. Decent, high leader. I mean, that could be our catching tandem here for the future, is Ford and Lomavita here. Matt Mervis, we've got him down in AAA to provide some possible pop at first base. That is one thing. I didn't go over the bench players. But Andres Chaparro, he's an okay bat. Somebody who might get an opportunity at first base DH for us. And then Yorbeat Vivas is like a slap hitter, good eye, decent speed, can play second, third for you. Not really anything too crazy when it comes to the Nationals bench. But then Matt Mervis can provide some pop. He's down in AAA right now. It's really pop and nothing else. It's just home run power, and then everything else is not great whatsoever. We've also got Kevin Made. I believe he used to be a top prospect in baseball, if I'm not mistaken. Not really that anymore, though. Trey Lipscomb is a name I'm obviously familiar with. He's not really looking that great either. Yohandy Morales at the University of Miami. He's somebody who could be something. I'm kind of surprised to see he's this low, but once again, our scout was terrible, so this could change once we actually get a real guy in the building, and he looks a little bit better. Who knows? But he could be somebody. And then we've also got Andrew Pinckney. He's like a outfield type, mainly a corner outfielder. Decent-ish bat. I do like that it's mainly BABIP, gap power, and power, because those are my favorite ones. And, he could be interesting bat to come up at some point. Looks like he get a really good AAA for them in 2025. There's also Christian Franklin, who is a bit older of a player, but also a decent defender in the outfield. Okay bat. He could be somebody we're looking at. Why is Dylan Cruz in AAA? I guess because he just hasn't really established yet in the big leagues, but Dylan Cruz is definitely somebody we're going to want in the big leagues. I guess he kind of lost his job to Dalen Lyle is what happened. So yeah, there's not really a spot for him. If it's like Wood in left, Young in center, Lyle in right, yeah, he's kind of like an odd man out right now. So Dylan Cruz, though, definitely somebody we're going to want to get involved and try to develop him, because he was awesome at LSU. He was sick as hell, and hopefully we can get him developed. So obviously going to be in the big league sooner than later for us. Robert Hassel III, also somebody who could be really good. We got a lot of outfielders, guys that we're probably going to either have to trade while their value is still at least decent for somebody, or their depth for us, or we move them around. Who knows? But decent amount of outfielders in the system, and not enough spots for them to play. And then what about Double-A? We got Seaver King. He was a first-round pick, I believe 10th overall. Bang, what do you know? Wake Forest. He was clicking on the wrong guy here. Seaver King. He's got a decent-ish bat. He could be decent. Really good speed. Absolutely good enough to play you. I accidentally hit right-click. He can absolutely play you like a really good second base. Third base, maybe not with the arm, but okay-ish. And then he can also play you a really good corner outfield. So, versatile player. Definitely interesting. He could be on the fast track at some point here, but a little bit more to develop. He's only a 35 right now, but we're definitely keeping an eye on him. And then as far as these other guys go, Sam Peterson, not really familiar with him. He was an 8th round pick in 2024. I guess he was on a team with who was the Iowa pitcher? Brody Brecht. I guess he was probably playing with Brody Brecht at Iowa and Blake Guerin, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, definitely an interesting bat. We've got some decent avoid K combined with a power eye and really good speed. Definitely intriguing there. Even somebody could maybe even play you like a second base, first base, a really good first base, but maybe even a second base with like a weak arm. But interesting player. And then we've also got Yeremy Cabrera, not Jeremy, Yeremy Cabrera. Another outfielder. We needed more of those. Another outfielder. He's a lefty guy. Are there any other prospects who are super far? Yeah, there's Yarlin Susana, who is in Double-A, currently hurt. not on the 40-man roster. So this is definitely somebody we're definitely going to want in the big leagues sooner than later. The control is definitely going to be a problem with him. He may be reliever prone because of that, but we're definitely going to see what he can do in the rotation for us whenever he's healthy and we get him up to the big leagues. He is our number one prospect. We also have Eli Willits, who went, he was 1-1, right? Yeah, 1-1 last year. Son of, why am I blanking on his dad's name? He was the Angels outfielder. He's the coach of Oklahoma. I'm blanking on his name, but it's something Willits. Anybody who is like me and watched baseball at that point in time and watches college baseball knows who he is. But Eli Willits, his dad, son of a major leaguer, he went 1-1 last year. He's definitely somebody we're going to be keeping an eye on. Travis Sikora, not related to Peter Sikora, but nonetheless, sick last name. Recovering from a torn UCL, though, unfortunately. But still excited, at least somewhat. Alejandro Rosario, another recovering from UCL arm. That's not great. Luis Perales, we'd already talked about him. Gavin Feen, he's somebody I know people are high on in real life as an infielder who came out of a California high school, high leader adaptability, decent bat profile. We'll see if he develops. We already talked about Seaver King and Harry Ford, and then it drops down pretty significant. Or no, Alex Clemmy's decent here. 20-year-old in high A. Looks like he could be a decent arm for us as well. Lefty out of a Rhode Island. Was it a Rhode Island high school too? Yes, Rhode Island high school as well. Coy James is a name I'm familiar with just from playing OTP over the last few years. Landon Harmon is another name I'm familiar with for the same reason. And we already talked about Jackson Kent. Luke Dickerson, I'm aware of him. Not really sure 100% why. Maybe because he's a New Jersey guy. I'm not really sure. Definitely aware of Devin Fitzgerald because his name is Devin Fitz-Gerald, not Devin Fitzgerald. And then there's Ethan Petrie out of South Carolina. Potential really good first base power bat for us in the system. And we already talked about Cornelio. This Herman guy's whatever. And then we have Miguel Cime Jr., who's also somebody who could be a potentially really good reliever for us down the line as a slider sinker guy who throws really hard. We'll be keeping tabs on him too, obviously. But this is another reason why the Nationals, basically the reason why we picked the Nationals is because they have not been a good team. They've been a terrible team in recent memory. And then they've got this new start. So we're like taking over like right as the new start in the front office and coaching staff is happening. And then also their minor league system is not like top of the, a lot of teams that are really bad, they have really great minor league systems and just kind of like a easy path to being good because you get all these guys right there. I was thinking about being the Cardinals until I realized that their system was rated so highly. But that's why we ended up not going with the Cardinals. And just to tease everyone, I was also thinking about being the San Francisco Giants as like kind of like a middling team with a bad prospect system and just trying to get them over the hump because they've been a team like stuck at 500 the past few seasons. But I ended up opting to go with the Nationals, and that's where we are. 14th best prospect system out of 30, and we'll see how 2026 goes. As you're probably seeing this episode on Friday, episode 2, which will be the actual first gameplay episode of the first half of the season, plus the 2026 first-year player draft. That will be the upcoming Monday. And then we will once again be on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday upload schedule. 3 uploads a week for the Nationals. And we'll have a good time. It's going to be a fun series. I'm excited to get into it. I've been itching to play this game because as much as OOTP pisses me off with a lot of the lag issues and just game-breaking stuff that can be happening at times, at heart, I am a true baseball sicko, and this is the only game that really gives me an outlet to have a true baseball sicko experience. So with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here for the Nationals on OOTP 26. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I am saying, absolutely do not look up Gunnar Henderson's high school.